Allow me to narrate my brief encounter with an individual named Happy. This encounter took place in 2013 when I was employed at a cannabis dispensary nestled in Venice Beach, just a short distance from the bustling boardwalk. Interestingly, a significant portion of our clientele consisted of unhoused individuals. Occasionally, we would come across people in the midst of severe psychosis, their attempts to enter marked by chaotic screams or incomprehensible utterances. In such cases, our security protocols prevented their entry. However, for those who arrived equipped with the necessary trio of medical documents, identification, and cash, access was granted without any issues. We upheld a compassionate initiative where we packaged grams of leftover shake from the bottom of jars and distributed them absolutely free, with a limit of 1 unit per person per day. This initiative gained rapid notoriety along the boardwalk. Surprisingly, these beneficiaries of our compassion program turned out to be some of the most polite and respectful customers, despite their slightly disheveled appearance and, at times, a noticeable odor. The staff had grown accustomed to patrons who carried the unmistakable scent of the beach, sometimes accompanied by a faint aroma of alcohol. As long as these individuals behaved calmly and routinely, they were treated just like any other customer. One foggy, chilly day during the holiday season, positioned between Thanksgiving and Christmas, an unusual situation unfolded. I found myself alone at the back of the shop, with another staff member manning the reception and the security guard stationed by the entrance. At that moment, I felt isolated at the back, with the cameras serving as passive observers rather than active overseers. It was during this time that a man, presumably Happy, entered the establishment after being cleared by the front desk. A strange chill seemed to permeate the room upon his arrival. Happy's attire immediately caught my attention. He wore a well-worn, deeply faded leather duster jacket that seemed to have become one with his frame, accompanied by an equally weathered leather cowboy hat. These garments appeared as if they had been his constant companions for years, enduring the test of time alongside him. Notably, our store policy prohibited wearing hats, hoods, or sunglasses indoors. Thus, I was somewhat surprised that the security personnel hadn't enforced this rule for Happy. Physically, he was an imposing figure, standing at around 6 feet 5 inches with a build that resembled a formidable boulder. Large not in the sense of obesity, but rather possessing the strength to handle someone easily. However, his aroma was unlike anything I had encountered before. It wasn't simply the scent of unwashed clothes. It carried an air of death itself, reminiscent of the presence of decaying carcasses concealed beneath his substantial leather attire. Despite my prior exposure to unpleasant odors, this was an entirely new level of repulsiveness, beyond the realm of recently unwashed bodies or minor accidents. In an effort to maintain my composure, I greeted him with a polite smile and asked if he would mind removing his hat, in accordance with our store policy. He responded with a deep, guttural grunt as he shuffled lethargically, dragging his feet along the floor. His voice mirrored his appearance, rough, wet, and gravelly, as though he had gargled with gravel. I quickly shifted my focus to customer service, asking about his preferences for the day. However, the encounter was marked by a pervasive, unsettling presence. Remarkably, he lacked footwear, a discovery I made upon seeing his ankles beneath his coat. One ankle appeared severely bruised and swollen, while the undersides of both feet showed signs of blood and abrasion. His meandering path left traces of blood behind as his ragged feet scraped against the concrete floor. These observations raised questions. How had he been allowed entry with such obvious injuries, and what circumstances had led him to this state? Suppressing my revulsion, I asked if he was all right. His response was a retort, filled with suspicion. "What do you care?" Attempting to diffuse any tension, I invoked the "not my circus, not my monkeys" philosophy, hoping to steer the interaction back to some semblance of normalcy. My goal was to expedite his visit and restore a sense of normalcy to the proceedings. I weighed out a portion of cannabis and decided to make a note to compensate for it later. Throughout this exchange, his intense gaze never wavered. Sensing the unease in the air, I maintained a safe distance from him, positioning myself against the wall to ensure some separation. As he approached, the overpowering odor grew more pronounced. My attempts at politeness continued, and I even concocted a special deal, intended solely for those who had traveled over 10 miles to reach our store. This tactic seemed to work, as he accepted the offered items, albeit without leaving immediately. During this pause, he revealed the source of his unusual moniker, Happy. He rolled up his sleeve to reveal an arm marked by circular burns, resembling the marks left by a cigar's ember. Among these scars was a handcrafted stick and poke tattoo, a crude representation of a smiley face etched into his flesh. With a hint of satisfaction, he informed me, "My name is Happy." In that moment, I felt the gasp of air was a necessary respite, a defense mechanism against the intense stench that enveloped him. The details of his journey, walking all the way from Pasadena, served as a distraction. However, my focus soon returned to the task at hand, ensuring he departed without incident. My inquiries about his preferences were met with a cryptic and ominous response, his eyes exuding a darkness that sent shivers down my spine. Embodying an aura of grime and wilderness, he stood out from the typical patrons who frequented our establishment, whether crust punks or beach-dwelling veterans. His age remained a mystery, falling somewhere between 30 and 50, a testament to the enigma he represented. His appearance seemed to straddle various realms and eras, blending elements of a quantum misstep with the eerie essence of historical figures. As he continued to scrutinize me, my instincts urged me to maintain distance, maximizing the barrier between us, a display shelf, a makeshift defense. I considered the best course of action, contemplating the quickest route to safety should his demeanor escalate. The discomfort in the air was palpable, a stark contrast to the typical laid-back atmosphere of our store. In an attempt to expedite his departure, I unveiled a special offer for him, an effort to satisfy him and bid him farewell. This tactic appeared to succeed, as he grunted in response and gradually retraced his steps toward the exit. Throughout this ordeal, the lingering odor of decay clung to the air like a malevolent specter, a grim reminder of his presence. The store's atmosphere seemed to transform in his wake, as if it were exhaling a sigh of relief. Just before exiting, he turned to face me one final time, uttering a cryptic farewell. "See you later." His departure, though welcomed, left behind a residue of dread. Grateful to be rid of his unsettling presence, I silently acknowledged the gods of chance that our paths would not cross again. Inquiring with the security guard about Happy's entry, I discovered an unsettling confrontation. The security guard, upon noticing Happy's bloodied feet, had inquired about his well-being, only to be met with a threat and a derogatory slur. Faced with a situation where he and two young, slight colleagues were outnumbered, the security guard had opted for self-preservation. The cameras, closely monitored by the guard, ensured that swift action would be taken if circumstances took a darker turn. Our definitions of weird differed, but all parties involved shared a sense of relief when the encounter concluded without further incident. Ultimately, the episode left us shaken, requiring the laborious task of cleaning bloodstains with the aid of bleach and gloves. Through it all, our boss acknowledged our need for a reprieve, granting us a fitting reward: free weed. Thus, the chapter of our encounter with Happy closed, leaving us with lingering unease, a tale to be shared, and the relief of having moved beyond the unsettling presence of a stranger who defied easy categorization. Allow me to share a recent experience that profoundly affected me, a tale that compels me to recount, despite the length it may entail. I apologize in advance for the detailed account, but the events that unfolded left an indelible mark on my soul. Not long ago, I found myself residing in a women's shelter, a situation I had never imagined. Despite the circumstances, I formed deep connections with remarkable individuals during my stay. Our solace often came in the form of evenings spent at a park adjacent to a serene temple. There, beneath the night sky, we would gather, partake in drinks and relaxation, immerse ourselves in music, and engage in heartfelt conversations about our lives. These friends, bonded by shared experiences of trauma, became a lifeline during this uncertain period. One particular night stands out vividly. After reveling at a city party for hours, a friend and I, both in our early 20s, found ourselves unexpectedly energetic. Instead of seeking rest, we embarked on an impromptu mission to witness the sunrise from the familiar park. Armed with fresh drinks, we settled in, witnessing the first rays of morning light painting the world around us, a moment of serenity amid life's chaos. However, our tranquility shattered when an unexpected sound pierced the calm, the distant strains of R&B and rap music emanating from the nearby temple. Fueled by curiosity and our slightly inebriated state, my friend and I were drawn by this unusual dawn playlist. What could prompt such music at this early hour? Our adventurous spirits led us to the temple, speculating about the person behind this audacious playlist. Our backgrounds were as diverse as they were complex, both being mixed-race Black individuals. In our tipsy curiosity, we approached the temple, its beauty illuminated by the emerging sunlight. Our enthusiasm waned as the imposing gates blocked our entry. Just as hope began to fade, a figure emerged from the temple's shadows. With an inviting smile, he beckoned us closer and welcomed us inside, introducing himself as the curator of the captivating music. Upon stepping into the temple, our senses were overwhelmed with awe and trepidation. The man guiding us was warm and amiable, putting us at ease as he showed us around the temple's interior, a harmonious blend of artistry and spirituality. However, our exploration revealed a more enigmatic aspect. Rooms furnished with beds, a concept that intrigued and puzzled us. The man casually mentioned the affordability of renting these rooms, which held undeniable allure for us, given our financial predicament. Initially, his presence exuded positivity, and a sense of camaraderie developed as we engaged in laughter and shared stories, but gradually the conversation veered into unsettling territory. Substances and questionable activities became the focus. It was an unexpected shift that cast shadows over the rapport we had built. The man's comments about manipulating women through substances were deeply unsettling. Moreover, his knowledge of our routines, gleaned from observing us at the park, struck a disconcerting chord. This insight into our lives raised questions about his motivations and intentions. As the conversation continued, his demeanor became erratic and unsettling. It was then that I noticed he had quietly closed the door, trapping us inside. A rising sense of unease, coupled with the realization that we were not free to leave, sent a chill down my spine. In an attempt to regain control, he redirected our attention to music, assuring us he had a song we'd adore. What followed was far from our expectations, a haunting and disconcerting chant blaring from the speakers at ear-splitting volume. The accompanying video depicted brutality, a stark contrast to the idyllic morning we had anticipated. Our pleas to lower the volume went unanswered as the man chanted along fervently, bordering on obsession. Events escalated rapidly, with the man undergoing a grotesque transformation, his once affable demeanor twisted into something unnaturally alien. His face contorted, his laughter turned manic, and his eyes radiated an unsettling intensity. I was paralyzed, caught between fight or flight. My friend chose the former, asserting her dominance with a threat to confront him physically. As we made a desperate bid to escape, panic surged within us. Every corner of the room seemed to close in, amplifying our terror. Our attempts to leave were thwarted by a locked door, his eerie laughter haunting us as we frantically moved about. We managed to break free, driven by fear and adrenaline. Despite my own anxiety, I saw my friend taking charge, guiding us towards safety. The aftermath of the encounter was a whirlwind of emotions. Our minds grappled with the inexplicable events, the unsettling shifts in the man's behavior, and the realization that our judgment had led us astray. Questions arose, met with fearful silence, and the possibility of our substances being tampered with added complexity to the harrowing ordeal. The full gravity of the experience is challenging to convey in words. The sudden transformation of an ordinary person into something grotesque, the pervasive unease in our hearts, and the stark reminder of our vulnerability in an unpredictable world created a nightmarish tableau. It serves as a cautionary tale about the unexpected paths we tread and the unforeseen dangers that may lurk. This unsettling encounter serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can infiltrate the most unexpected corners of our lives. The temple, once a symbol of serenity, became a stage for a disturbing performance. Our choices, driven by curiosity and naivety, led us down a treacherous path, forcing us to confront the unsettling truth that dangers often masquerade as innocent opportunities. As I reflect on that night's events, the gravity of the situation continues to reverberate through my thoughts, an enduring testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the inherent unpredictability of life's journeys. A new colleague recently joined our team, having transferred laterally from another department within our company. What made this individual distinctive was a significant hearing impairment, which limited their ability to perceive anything but the loudest sounds. Consequently, their participation in verbal discussions was restricted, and they heavily relied on lip reading to grasp our conversations. In response, we adjusted our communication approach, ensuring we faced them directly while speaking and took turns to engage in dialogue. Initially, their integration into the team seemed promising and smooth. However, over time, we began to notice an unsettling change in their behavior. Unaccountably, they started making unwarranted and inappropriate comments, targeting not only me, but also our only other female colleague. These comments ranged from mocking questions about tasks, like making coffee, to offensive, outdated jokes directed at women. A significant part of my role involved providing comprehensive instructions on customer requirements and expectations to this colleague. Unfortunately, their adherence to these instructions was marked by frequent lapses, resulting in an increase in customer complaints. As a result, I often had to inform them of the need to rectify their work to align with the original specifications. Sadly, these discussions often escalated into confrontations, with them venting their frustration at me, as if my insistence on compliance was the cause of their problems. As these confrontations continued, my patience wore thin, prompting me to address the issue directly. I made it clear that had they executed their tasks accurately from the beginning, customer complaints would have been avoided altogether. Their response to this candid evaluation was one of indignation, struggling to accept this feedback. This marked a turning point in our interactions, hinting at more troubling developments to come. In the following weeks, their behavior became increasingly bizarre. They adopted a confrontational stance, physically blocking doorways and wearing an unsettling, sinister grin as if daring us to respond. One particularly uncomfortable incident occurred when they obstructed the entrance to our female colleague's office and mine. This event unfolded with an air of provocation, as if they were challenging us to react. Mindful of the delicate situation, we continued our work-related discussions, pointedly ignoring their disruptive. However, my ordeal did not end with my individual struggle. Subsequent revelations cast an even darker shadow on their character. Another teammate disclosed an incident in which they had boldly touched the upper thigh of our female colleague, violating her personal space and boundaries. Witnesses were uncertain how to react, leaving her in distress. This unsettling episode became a breaking point. Determined to address this untenable situation, I formally filed a complaint with our Human Resources Department, detailing every instance of intimidation, degradation, entrapment, and harassment we had endured. The seriousness of these allegations was undeniable, prompting the company to take swift action. Consequently, they were terminated from their position, a clear indication of the gravity of their actions and their incompatibility with a healthy work environment. Their departure, however, was not without drama. As they were escorted off the premises, they claimed it was an act of retaliation, making it evident that my determination to confront their inappropriate behavior had earned their enmity. This unsettling parting shot served as a reminder of the toxic dynamics that had festered. Interestingly, the management's response to our concerns remained unclear at best. Despite mounting evidence of their disruptive behavior, there was a recurring pattern of dismissal. Managers offered explanations that bordered on denial, attributing their actions to misunderstandings, language barriers, or their hearing impairment. This response demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding that a disability does not absolve an individual of accountability for their actions, especially when those actions disrupt the workplace and cause emotional distress to others. As the dust settled following their departure, a silver lining emerged. The atmosphere of openness fostered by my actions encouraged other female colleagues to come forward with their own accounts of their inappropriate conduct. Their stories echoed similar discomfort, which had been suppressed due to inaction. In these cases as well, managers had dismissed their concerns, seemingly reluctant to confront the issue directly. The common thread in these responses was the fear of potential legal consequences due to the individual's disability. However, the cumulative weight of our complaints necessitated action, leading to their dismissal. In hindsight, while I detest the pain and distress they inflicted on my colleagues, I cannot help but acknowledge that our collective effort to address their behavior was pivotal in finally removing them from our workplace. By dismantling tolerance for inappropriate conduct, we reaffirmed the importance of a respectful and inclusive work environment. This ordeal underscored the significance of holding all individuals accountable for their actions, regardless of their personal circumstances.